Good afternoon. So I decided to use ChatGPT to help me with my whole interview today because I don't know a lot of people and I didn't feel comfortable reaching out to somebody just yet about their business and how it came about and everything else. But I did come up with a list of about 8 things that are important when starting a franchise. I think the first one is successful franchises follow a playbook. So it's probably going to be maybe out of your comfort zone to follow exactly what they're doing, but you may have to do it for a little bit just to be successful. And same goes with struggling franchises try to reinvent everything, which like I just said, you have to follow a playbook. You can't reinvent something that has worked for the franchise just because you think, oh, we have this creative idea for my own head. It's gonna help with this franchise. No, you may have to stick with what works for the beginning until you can really get your franchise going and in the right direction before you try to reinvent something. I think the most probably important one is choose a franchise based on data, not emotions. I mean, I love Starbucks, but if I didn't do research on data and maybe the location I would want to start my Starbucks, it probably would be based on emotions because I love Starbucks, but is that going to be what's best for me? I got to look at unit profitability, franchise satisfaction, support quality, territory availability. I wouldn't want to start a Starbucks franchise, if there's one half a mile down the road. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Um, Realistic return on investment. So, am I going to make money when I'm investing in this franchise, or am I going to lose money? Or how long will it be until I make money? Because, like up front, when you start a franchise, it is very costly. Another important thing to look at with a franchise is probably looking at researching a few, 8 to 10 of the current franchises that are probably very popular and see what their story is from the franchisees who started those businesses. What is it like to run the business on a daily basis? How long did it take to make profits? Because, of course, you don't want to be waiting forever to figure out your profits. What the franchisor is good or bad at. So, what were some things that they were really good at in the beginning, and then some things they really messed up that really got them off to a rough start? Of course, finding any challenges that maybe they had with their business, their franchise starting up, because you always want to keep those in mind when you're starting a franchise. 'Cause like I said, it can be challenging in the beginning, a lot of money up front, and you would hate to have other additional challenges, maybe, with employees or location, just whatever. Make sure another big important thing to remember is understand the total investment in your franchise. Are you going to have to build out some things? What about equipment? Like, is there certain equipment you're going to need? Or maybe you buy into an existing franchises or some outdated systems you may have to put in place. Software fees with whatever software the company uses. Local advertising. Do you have to pay for that? Required inventory. I think of like Chick-fil-A. I was like, I'm sure they have a lot of inventory for their food, of course, and that can be kind of costly. And then finding probably the right vendors in the area, or can you only work with certain vendors, might be something you have to think about. Working capital, unexpected build delays. So of course, when you're building things, delays can hurt your overall cost and margins, especially moving forward. And depending on when you can open, the sooner you can open, the sooner you can make your money. Location is another thing you need to consider. You want a location for your franchise that's strong traffic, the right demographics. You probably wouldn't want to open a coffee shop in a part of town where there's not very many people around. Just the other day, I was looking, we were downtown, one of the downtown areas I live at. I was like, man, this would probably be a good place for a Starbucks. And then one of our friends in the back was like, I don't know. I feel like there's not enough of a crowd around here. But I was like, if you look around, you had like City Hall, you had the school administration, you have a lot of the business people that work downtown. I was like, I think it could be a good Starbucks location because there's not one in the area. You got a lot of business people. But that's just something to think about with location, like, strong traffic, the right demographics, good visibility, of course, easy parking. When you go into Starbucks or any, like Chick-fil-A, it's always easy to get in, get out in a relatively quick time. Little competition, like I said earlier with the Starbucks, I wouldn't want to open one there's another one half a mile down the road. Of course, affordable rent because you got to pay rent. Like, how much is it going to cost for you to lease or have that area per month? A great operator plus bad location is going to equal struggle. A good location plus average operator equals survival. So you're just making enough money. A great operator plus great location equals wealth. So you're going to be really good and probably continuously having success. Another thing to consider with your franchise is hiring and training the right people early on. I feel like Chick-fil-A does this one really good. They hire the right people, they train them, and they kind of build within their company so that their franchisers can have the right business. And it's, customers are satisfied, there's efficiency, less waste, you're less likely to have turnover, which can be very expensive, and then your stress level having to train and hire people constantly would be a lot lower if you can hire and train the right people off the bat. I think you need to know the biggest factors in success. You can't, even the best franchise systems cannot fix laziness. So you can't fix a lazy person by telling them, hey, you need to do this differently. If they're lazy or lazy, they're going to hurt you. Making sure you make the right financial moves because that can be costly. You need a good leadership because it starts at the top. If you have the right leaders in place, your business is probably going to be a little more successful. You need good customer service regardless of what your business is, because that's why people always come back, is there's always good customer service. They keep coming back. I think that's about it though. I guess too, with the franchise, make sure you get a lawyer because it will save you money down the road, because the franchise attorney, I didn't even know this was a thing, a franchise attorney can help find any hidden fees, explain your rights, show you risk, negotiate terms, and this, can help protect you for 10, 20 years down the road and help save you money. I mean, it will be costly up front, but save you money down the road. So I think that's really important to have. And I think most importantly, you got to expect to work hard in the beginning if you eventually want to see success. There's no easy way to start a franchise or get into a franchise without working hard in the front end, and not expecting, to just, like I said, just be lazy in the front, because you can't do that. But I think that's all I have for about franchises.